Yeah!
Imagine moving into your dream home, a brand new house in a quiet Texas suburb, the kind of place with perfect lawns, tall streetlights, and neighbors who wave when you pass by. The Johnson family had it all, or at least they thought they did. 2 kids, a golden retriever, and a freshly built smart home packed with the newest technology. Every door, every window, every camera was wired into one sleek system, controlled by a single app on their phones. No keys, no worries, no fear. At least that's what the salesman promised. But promises have a way of breaking when night falls. The first week was a dream. The dad bragged to coworkers that his house practically ran itself. The mom loved how the thermostat adjusted to her voice. The kids thought it was cool when Alexa turned on the TV with a single word. At night, when the family went to bed, the system would lock the doors with a soft click. The security lights would hum on, and the cameras would sweep every corner of the yard. It was supposed to feel safe. It was supposed to feel like the future, but instead it started to feel like something was watching. It began with small glitches, little things that were easy to ignore. The front door locked itself in the middle of the afternoon, even while the kids were playing outside. The thermostat cranked up to 90 degrees at 3 in the morning, filling the house with stifling heat. Sometimes the lights flickered in rooms no one had walked into. The dad brushed it off, blamed the Wi-Fi. The mom called customer support, who told her it was just a software update. But when you live inside a machine, even the smallest malfunction feels personal. One night, the mom stood in the kitchen pouring a glass of water. The house was quiet, too quiet. The kind of silence that makes you check over your shoulder. She set the glass down and heard a faint click from the living room. She pulled out her phone, opened the app, and checked the camera feed. What she saw froze her blood. The system had tagged movement. In the corner of the living room, barely visible in the shadows, stood a figure. A tall man, broad-shouldered, his head tilted slightly as if he were listening. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. He just stood there in the dark. She gasped, dropped her phone, and rushed into the living room. The lights came on instantly, flooding the room in white glow. But there was nothing. No man, no shadow. Only the furniture perfectly still. She picked up her phone again, trembling, checked the feed a second time. The figure was gone, erased from the footage like he had never been there. The system only left her one chilling message: motion detected, human identified. The next morning she tried to explain it to her husband. He laughed it off, said maybe she was half asleep. Maybe it was the dog. Maybe it was just a glitch. But the kids weren't laughing. They whispered at the breakfast table about how Alexa had called their names in the dark. Not once, not twice, but over and over, like someone was whispering through the speakers. Still, the dad didn't believe. He waved it away, told them not to scare themselves. But when he left for work, when the garage door closed behind his car, the mom stood in the hallway, staring at the blinking blue light of the smart hub. She couldn't shake the feeling that the house wasn't listening to them anymore. The house was listening for someone else. And outside, on the quiet street where neighbors waved and sprinklers hissed, nobody noticed the faint glow of the living room camera, recording even when no one was home. The second week in the Johnsons' dream home should have been ordinary. But by then, the house wasn't just acting strange. It was starting to feel alive. The dad still laughed off the little glitches. But the mom couldn't forget what she saw on the camera feed. That man, that shadow, human identified. The words wouldn't leave her mind. She kept checking the system, again and again, searching for answers. And every time she did, it felt like the house was holding its breath. It was past midnight when it happened again. The mom sat up in bed, unable to sleep, her phone glowing in her hand. She opened the app to look at the living room camera. She told herself it was routine, just a habit, just nerves. But the screen flickered and her stomach dropped. There he was again. A man in the corner, his body half hidden in the dark. His head bent like he was studying the furniture. He wasn't moving, but he wasn't still either. It was as if the picture couldn't hold him. She blinked hard, looked again, and this time he was gone. The feed was clear. Nothing but an empty room. Her heart hammered in her chest. She rushed downstairs, flicked on the lights. But the living room was empty, perfect, silent, still. She whispered to herself that it had to be a glitch, that no one was there. But when she turned back toward the stairs, her phone buzzed in her hand. A new alert. Motion detected in the kitchen. She froze, staring down the dark hallway. Slowly, she lifted her phone and tapped the feed. What she saw made her legs go weak. The man was standing in the kitchen now. Closer, his face just out of frame, his hand resting on the counter like he belonged there. She couldn't breathe. And then, just as before, the feed went blank. The kitchen was empty. She ran upstairs, woke her husband, begged him to look. He rubbed his eyes, annoyed, grabbed the phone, and stared at the screen. He saw nothing but static for a moment. Then the feed returned to normal. The kitchen was empty. The living room was empty. The whole house looked fine. He set the phone down, told her she was exhausted, imagining things. But the kids had their own story, and it made his smile fade. At breakfast the next morning, their daughter whispered that Alexa had been calling her name in the night. Over and over, not loud, not cheerful, just a whisper, like someone standing right behind her bed. The boy nodded, said he heard it too. He said the voice wasn't Alexa at all. It was deeper, slower, almost like a man's voice trying to sound like her. The dad stared at his kids, tried to laugh, but it didn't sound real this time. That night, he decided to test it himself. He turned off the lights in the house, sat in the living room, and pulled up the camera feed. Hours passed. Nothing happened. He almost convinced himself his wife and kids were just nervous, letting technology play tricks on them. But then, sometime after 2 a.m, he heard it. A faint whisper, coming from the dark speaker in the corner of the room. It said his name, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Low, careful, like someone testing the sound of it. He jumped, spun around, but the speaker was dark, the light off. His phone buzzed with a fresh alert. He lifted it with shaking hands, opened the feed. For a split second, before the image glitched, he swore he saw the back of a man's head leaning close to the camera, as if staring straight into it. Then the feed cut. Black screen, no signal. He tried to reset the system, but the app wouldn't respond. The devices were running on their own now, no longer connected to his control. His wife stood in the doorway, pale, her eyes wide with fear. She whispered that she told him. She saw someone, and now he had heard it too. The kids stood behind her, clutching her robe, eyes darting to the dark corners of the hall. The dad tried to act calm, tried to say it was still a glitch, but his voice cracked. And when the thermostat beeped, adjusting itself to 90 degrees again, and the lights in the hallway began to flicker one by one, none of them believed it was a glitch anymore. The system had identified someone inside the house. But who or what that someone was, none of them could say. And as the night dragged on, one thing became horribly clear. Whatever had found a way in wasn't leaving. The Johnsons tried to convince themselves it was just technology failing. A bug in the system, maybe even a hacker testing his reach. But the next night proved it wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a stranger on the other side of a screen. It was something already inside. The house had stopped obeying them. Now it was obeying someone else. It started with the locks. Around 9 p.m, the mom checked the front door out of habit just to make sure. She pulled on the handle and it wouldn't budge. She checked the app, tapped unlock, but the icon just spun in circles. The door stayed locked. She tried again, harder this time, but nothing. She called to her husband. He tried the garage door, locked, the back patio, locked, every entry sealed. Even though the app said all systems were normal, the husband tried rebooting the hub. But when he pulled the plug, the blue light didn't die. It just glowed brighter, like it was alive on its own current. The kids sat on the couch, clutching pillows, whispering they wanted to go to Grandma's. The mom promised they would, but she didn't believe her own words. The house hummed, faint and steady, like a giant machine breathing. Then the living room TV clicked on by itself. A burst of static and then an image. It wasn't a channel, not even a program. It was them. A live feed. The family sitting on the couch, staring at themselves in real time. The mom gasped and covered the kids' eyes. The dad lunged for the remote. But no matter what buttons he pressed, the feed stayed. He slammed the power button. The TV stayed on, and then the volume rose. A low, distorted voice filled the room, stretching through the speakers. "You let me in," it said, slow and broken. "Now you can't keep me out." The mom screamed, yanked the kids upstairs, but the hallway lights flickered as they ran. Each bulb buzzed, then died, one after another, plunging them into patches of shadow. The dad shouted for them to stay together. He pulled out his phone, tried to call 911, but the screen froze. No service. The icon of the app blinked back on, even though he'd deleted it. The words flashed in red. "Emergency exit breach detected." The dog barked from the kitchen, sharp and frantic, then yelped as the door slammed shut behind him. The mom tried to run to him, but the lock clicked again, trapping him inside. She pounded on the door, screaming his name, but the system's voice echoed overhead, calm and robotic. "Intruder alert. Containment engaged." The dad grabbed a hammer from the toolbox and smashed at the front door. The wood cracked, splintered, but the smart lock held, metal against metal. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, hands trembling. A notification glowed across the screen. New video uploaded. He tapped it without thinking. The footage opened, shaky at first, then clear. It showed the upstairs hallway, the kids' bedroom door. Slowly, the door creaked open on screen, though in real life it was still shut. And there, in the video, a tall shadow stepped inside. The mom clutched her children, her heart slamming in her chest. The boy cried out that someone was in their room. Someone was standing between the beds. But when the parents rushed in, the room was empty. No shadow, no figure, just toys scattered on the floor, untouched. The dad looked at the phone again, but the video had changed. Now it showed the living room, empty except for a single figure in the corner. Not a shadow anymore. A man, a face. Pale skin stretched tight, black eyes locked on the lens, smiling without lips. The TV roared with static downstairs, rattling the walls, the distorted voice echoing through every speaker at once. "You let me in. You let me in. You let me in." The words repeated, faster and louder, shaking picture frames from the walls. The kids screamed. The mom begged for it to stop. The dad smashed the hub with the hammer. Sparks flying, plastic shattering, but the blue light pulsed from the pieces on the floor, stronger than before. The house sealed tighter, every window, every door, every vent. They weren't in control anymore. They weren't even residents. They were captives, and the thing inside their system was no longer hiding. It had claimed the house as its own, and it wasn't going to let them leave. The Johnsons didn't sleep that night. They couldn't. Every time they closed their eyes, the house came alive again. The locks clicked in rhythm like a heartbeat. The lights pulsed like veins under skin, and the cameras kept buzzing, capturing angles no one could explain. The mom held the kids in their room, whispering prayers, rocking them back and forth as the static-filled voice spilled through every speaker. The dad kept pacing, gripping the hammer, his eyes bloodshot, his breath shallow. He kept saying they'd break out, they'd find a way, but the words sounded emptier each time. At 3 a.m, the system spoke again. Not distorted this time. Clear, calm, human. "Welcome home," it said. The sound came from everywhere at once, upstairs, downstairs, inside the walls, inside their heads. The mom clutched her children tighter. The boy whispered that he could see someone standing in the hallway. The dad spun toward the door. Hammer raised. Nothing. Just shadows stretching across the carpet. But then the baby monitor clicked on. Its screen glowed in the dark, showing the kids' room from another angle. And on the feed, there was a tall man standing right behind them, his arms outstretched. The mom screamed, grabbed her children, spun around, but there was no one there. The monitor showed one thing. The room showed another. She dropped the device, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold on to the kids. The dad swung the hammer at the bedroom window, glass shattering across the floor. He tried to climb out, but the frame snapped shut like jaws, sealing with a hiss. He smashed it again, but no matter how hard he struck, the shards kept reforming, melting back into place like ice under heat. The thermostat beeped. 95 degrees. The air grew heavy, choking. Sweat dripped down their faces. The house was tightening its grip. The mom begged, cried, screamed that they didn't want this. They didn't ask for this, but the voice only laughed through the vents, deep and hollow. You invited me. You welcomed me. Now you belong to me. The dad stumbled, coughing, his hammer falling from his hand. The TV in the hallway flickered on, static turning to a live feed. It showed the family in real time, huddled together, shaking, terrified. Then, slowly, the camera angle began to change, though no one was holding it. The view pulled closer, zooming in on their faces, until the screen filled with their wide, panicked eyes. The image froze, and then it switched. Now the TV showed them sleeping peacefully in their beds. Not terrified, not sweating, not fighting to breathe. Just calm, still, like mannequins laid out for display. The mom gasped. The kids cried louder. The dad shouted that it wasn't real. But when the mom turned to her children, her heart shattered. For a split second, just one horrible second, their faces didn't look like her kids anymore. Their eyes were black, their skin pale, their mouths stretched into wide, unnatural smiles. Then they blinked, crying again, and it was gone. The house spoke one last time, every device crackling at once, every camera glowing blue. Intruder detected, it said softly, almost gently. Then after a pause, the words twisted. Welcome home. The lights went out. The blue glow of the cameras flickered once, twice, then vanished. Silence, heavy, crushing silence. The next morning, the neighbors noticed the Johnsons' curtains drawn. Their car still in the driveway. By evening, no one had seen them. A delivery driver rang the bell, but the door didn't open. Packages piled up on the porch. Days passed, a week. The house stayed dark, quiet. Finally, the HOA called for a wellness check. Officers arrived, knocked, then forced their way inside. The air was stale, suffocating. The lights didn't work, the hub was shattered on the floor, and every window was sealed tight. But the house was empty. No family, no kids, no dog, nothing, just silence. In the living room, the TV clicked on by itself. The officers froze as the screen filled with a live feed of the front door. And there they were, the Johnson family standing together on the porch, smiling, waiting. But the porch was empty. The officers glanced at the door, then back at the screen. The family was still there, staring, waving slowly, their eyes black and hollow. The screen cut to static. The house hummed once, faint and satisfied. And then the glow of the cameras returned, one by one, blinking like watchful eyes. The Johnsons never left, and the house never let them go.